Time for a look at IP Source Guard, including a couple of labs that I've never included in a course before. You're really going to enjoy those. But first, we've got to talk a little bit about what IP Source Guard does. And you may look at the name of it and say, well, Chris, as you're always saying, the name is the recipe. You're right, this is going to be a short discussion, but a couple of important points here about IPSG. You're going to configure it on a port that is not trusted by DHCP snooping, but when DHCP snooping is running. Now, IP Source Guard prevents a host on the network from using another host's IP address. It is guarding the source IP address. Now, just like dynamic ARP inspection, IPSG works in tandem with DHCP snooping and uses DHCP snooping's database. So we've got to have DHCP snooping enabled on the switch globally and for any VLANs that we're also using IP Source Guard on. So a lot going on there as far as prerequisites. Now, when IPSG is enabled, the only kind of traffic the connected host can get at first is DHCP related traffic. So we're still looking at that kind of traffic first. But once that host successfully gets its IP address, the switch takes note of that IP address assignment. It says, okay, we're passing on this DHCP message through fast0/2. The IP address being assigned is 172.12.12.1/24. Make a note of it in the multi-layer switch database, and from now on, that's where, of course, the check is going to come in. Because the switch creates a VLAN ACL, we know about those, that will allow traffic to flow into the port only if the previously noted source IP address is present on that incoming traffic. So when traffic comes back in on fast0/2, source IP is 172.12.12.1. Everything is beautiful, matches the database, and the packets get forwarded. Now, should that connected host present itself as another host on that subnet, spoofing the other host's IP address, pretending to be someone else, the switch will then drop that incoming traffic by default. We can configure it for other actions, and I'll show you what those are, but by default, the incoming traffic is simply dropped or filtered, however you want to put it. Now, to see this in action, our first lab involves the lab we built during our DHCP snooping lab, and I just want to give you a quick review on that. Routers 2 and 3. Router 2 renewed its IP address via DHCP successfully in that lab. Router 3 was configured with IP address DHCP. It acquired an address for the first time successfully, and we know our trusted ports, trusted by DHCP snooping, are ports 2, 3, and 12. So that's what we have, and that's actually what I have up and running right now. Now, for clarity's sake, because I'm about to add another router here, the checkboxes have got to go. So the list of trusted ports, the DHCP trusted ports, will remain on the screen, but the check marks are going to go away. And here is router 1. It needs to acquire an IP address via DHCP, and it's connected to 0/1 on our switch, and we're really ready to go there. What we're going to do instead of trusting it, though, and using DHCP snooping, is using IP Source Guard so we can see what's going on there. So let's go ahead and bring the rack up. We're on router 1 right now, and that interface is actually closed, but I'm going to do a verification anyway. And we see administratively down, we know the deal there. And we also see 2 lines under that internet address will be negotiated using DHCP. So it's ready to get an address as soon as we open that interface. What we will do first is go to our switch, and do a show CDP neighbor. Just check our connectivity, and of course we don't see router 1 there because that port is closed. So you're gonna have to take my word for it on this one that it is connected to Fast Ethernet 0/1. And the command is IP verify source. And there are some options here, mostly for future study with smart log and tracking. I will discuss the port security option with you and tell you real world versus theory when we get to that, as I always do, because as we know, the theory doesn't always match up with the live stuff. So we do have a port security option there. We also know that port security deals with what? What value? The MAC address value, the source MAC address precisely. But we're working with IP Source Guard, so that means we're really looking at the IP address. If we use port security, that means we're looking at the IP and the MAC address. Right now, let's stick with IP verify source. And that is the only command we've got that we need because I already have DHCP snooping running on the switch. I have everything set up from that the DHCP snooping lab. So we're good to go there. Let's go ahead and go over to router 1 and see what we can see. We'll do a debug DHCP first. And stand back. This could get rough. Let's see what happens. So we're waiting for 5 seconds. That's a good thing for you to see as well. And let's see, we're starting the discovery process. We're sending another attempt. We're sending another attempt. I did pause the video there to save you some scrolling. We did have to wait for a couple of attempts there for everything to go through, but it did in about 30 seconds or so. And you see here at the bottom, DHCP client pooling, it pulled the address 10115, and with 24-bit mask, there's our DHCP console message, so we are good there. Let's go back out to the switch and take a look at a couple of values, including one I don't think we looked at before. Show IP DHCP snooping binding, and this is a long one because I just want to look at that particular address. And this is a look at the DHCP snooping database itself, and it's show IP DHCP snooping binding. And if you leave it at that, it's going to show you all of them. I just wanted to concentrate on 0/1. You can see it has the MAC address listed, the IP address. There's the lease, which is infinite. And the type DHCP snooping VLAN 1 and interface is running a little off the screen, but it's fast Ethernet 0/1. Total number of bindings shown there 1. So far, so good. So let's do a little verify source show here. And I really want to share something real world with you here because this is really easy to fall for. I fell for it anyway the first time. Show IP verify source. You got your interface log, your filter type, your filter mode, IP address, MAC address, and the VLAN here at the very end, which I knew you could figure out. So why is it showing that my interface is disabled if under filter mode it says active and there's the IP address that we are guarding? And this is not in every iOS, but what you'll see sometimes will show IP verify source. Sometimes log is there and sometimes it's not. And what gets really confusing is you look at this and you go, well, wait a minute, my fast Ethernet 0/1 port is disabled. Actually, it's not. What happens here is log shows up under interface. These are two separate columns. And the thing is, you could stretch the screen out. So I've got a pretty big screen here as it is. You could stretch the screen out a mile and log is still going to appear under interface. So if you see this, whether it's in a lab environment or in a production environment, interface is strictly referring to that, the interface itself, and log is disabled. That's why I wanted to show you this particular iOS as well, because like I said, it's really easy to look at that and say, wait a minute, everything looks fine, but my port is disabled. No, it's not. These two columns are just crammed up. It's a formatting issue. And again, you can make the screen as big as you want to. You could shrink the font down to size 4, which would make us all very upset, and you still would have log directly under interface. So just wanted to show you that. Now, let's, we need to do a little bit of pinging, I think. So what we're going to do when we come back, we'll send some pings from router 1. Let's bring the board back up. And we'll start pinging. We had a VLAN on this switch that I took off. That was 10111. We'll ping 100 and then see what happens when another router takes router 1's place on that same port. That's coming up next.